Bob Steele, Tom Tyler, Hoot Gibson, William Boyd, John Wayne, and of course, Gene Autry. Throughout the history of Western film, the Santa Clarita Valley, particularly Placerita Canyon, has been Hollywood's backlot. I'm Leon Warden, and this is Legacy, Santa Clarita's Living History, brought to you by the Santa Clarita Valley Historical Society, the SCV School and Business Alliance, and Comcast. It's only once a year at Cowboy Poetry Festival time that the public has a chance to see the Melody Ranch Motion Picture Studio. That's because it's still a working movie ranch. Tonight, we're pleased to welcome the owners of the ranch, Renaud and Andre Veluzat.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Nice to be here.
Now, what goes on at the ranch today? What kind of filming goes on there?
Today, we're doing a new HBO series called Deadwood.
Who's in it?
Well, they have guests each week. It's a ensemble cast, and so one of the actors is David Carradine.
Now, Melody was recently used for another series. What was that?
The Magnificent Seven.
The Magnificent Seven remake, right, yeah. Now, Melody Ranch, of course it's called Melody Ranch today. It didn't always used to be called Melody Ranch. When did it start and where was it?
Melody Ranch started in 1952 when Gene Autry bought it.
Right.
And originally it was the Placerita Ranch, and that was located way up on the other side of 14 Freeway in Placerita Canyon, about where the Golden Oak Ranch is now.
Yeah, about where the Disney Ranch is.
About where Disney Ranch. And then that was about 1915.
15.
When there probably wasn't anything around here.
Yeah.
Right. And so then it was ran at that time by Trem Carr, and he partnered up with a guy named Ernie Hickson, and they built the little town up there. And in later years, I think it was maybe in the 30s, or late 20s, early 30s, Trem Carr, you know, he got kind of like financial trouble and stuff. He was producing shows and stuff.
Right.
And he sold the ranch, or what they did actually, Ernie Hickson moved the sets that was there down to Oak Creek and Placerita Canyon Road.
How would they have done that?
Well,
They would have jacked them up and braced them with them old worm jacks, screw jacks, brought them up and shored them underneath and run timber and girders.
they must.
And I believe my history books tell me they skidded them.
Really?
I think so.
Rollers and skidded them.
Yeah,
Because they didn't have those dollies like they have today, and just skidded them and pulled them and
So you
took
don't,
them
in
think
place.
you don't think they took them apart board by board?
No, I don't believe they did. They braced them up well enough.
Just
and
drug 'em down the
right on
road.
down there with horses probably.
Yeah. Now, I'd heard that Ernie Hickson actually bought a lot of those buildings in Nevada.
I think what he did, I think he bought the lumber and the weathered look and brought them here and assembled them that way.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Today, we use all new lumber and new construction, and then we make it look old.
Yeah.
Back then, Ernie really had a powerful vision for the future.
Oh yeah.
He's seen these westerns coming, and that's what he focused on.
Yeah. Now, whether it was Trem Carr or Ernie Hickson, I guess they leased the ranch to Monogram Studios.
Later on, yeah, they leased the ranch to Monogram, and they did all those Monogram B westerns and stuff there.
In like the 30s and 40s.
30s and 40s,
Yeah.
and that's correct. And then when Ernie passed on, Gene Autry come along and bought the place. But Gene did his first TV or movie there. It was Tumbling Tumbleweeds, and I think in 1934. And he told us, Andre and I, that ever since that first movie when he worked there, he wanted to buy that place.
Okay.
And so he tried all those years.
Yeah, for just about 20 years, huh?
Yep. And then when Ernie passed on, his family finally sold it to Gene.
When you think of Melody Ranch then, you're talking about a much bigger area. How many acres did that stretch?
Well, it was actually 110 acres in Placerita Canyon there.
Right.
And then then there's other rumors that it was 50 acres.
Okay.
Actually, it was 110.
Yeah. Give me a little rundown. Some of the people who would be familiar names still today in the 30s and 40s who were out there.
Randolph Scott, Gary Cooper, John Wayne,
Right.
and then still a video right now you can rent it at Blockbuster called Boots and Saddles, starring Gene Autry in '38
Yeah.
in front of the Mission. Remember the,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
the pictures or something?
Pictures, it was great. Yes, good.
We mentioned that the public gets to see it once a year when the city of Santa Clarita hosts one of its Cowboy Poetry Festivals. And at the 2002 festival, we sent out Margie Clark from the Signal to talk to a couple people, and let's take a look at that now.
We're here at the 9th Annual Cowboy Poetry and Music Festival here at the Melody Ranch Motion Picture Studios. We're going to catch up with some of the stars and see what they have to say. John, I understand you performed at Gene Autry's 90th birthday celebration.
Yes, I did.
How does it feel to be here on the ranch, kind of back on the old stomping grounds?
Oh, it's wonderful. You know, it's has a lot of great memories here, you know, and of, you know, friends that have shared their stories with me and things like that, and a place where Mr. Autry did a lot of TV shows, and they filmed Gunsmoke, and so many movies that they're still doing here, you know. But the festival they do here every year is just a wonderful thing that this came about and how it came about. And originally, 9 years ago, we were going to do this at the William S. Hart High School. And that year was an earthquake. And the school was damaged. And the Veluzat family so wonderfully and graciously said, how would you like to do this at Melody Ranch? And we said, oh, would that be great? You know what I mean? This is the atmosphere, and it's just, you know, it's just, where a better place could you do a festival but Melody Ranch? It's a place where the public was never allowed to be before. So the first time I ever walked down this street, it was like, yeah, I've been here before, you know?
What kind of memories does Melody Ranch bring back for you, Jack?
One of the big ones is seeing Gene Autry ride down the main street, and beautiful champion. You know, he was a Tennessee Walker, I think. He had a particular gait that was just absolutely beautiful to watch, and the way he held his head was so proud. And so all those images never leave your mind. Did you know that? They never leave your mind as a little child. Those are the most deeply ingrained memories of your life, is seeing those things. And you know, the thing that always impressed me about Gene was he only had one gun. He didn't need two. He didn't need two guns. He only had one. He could take care of them with one. And of course, knowing that Champion is buried right out here.
Is that right?
Yeah, and he lived to be 47 years old.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and to walk in these rooms and remember the scenes from movies that were filmed here, and seeing the same bar, the same swinging door, you know. The only thing that's changed is the girls have gotten prettier.
I think the last time I was here actually shooting something was an episode of the Laredo series that I did with Neville Brand and William Smith and Philip Carey. That was a few years ago, but had a great time out here and always do.
So tell me, John, I understand the Placerita Canyon's pretty familiar to you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We started filming Dukes originally in 1978 in Georgia, and then we moved right here down this street, really about 2 miles to the Disney Ranch. That's where we had the original farm, the original boar's nest. But it's also where we stopped traffic every day on Placerita Canyon. And there were people that lived in Sand Canyon, and it was kind of a shortcut through the mountains. So I'd love to say that everybody loved us around here, but truth be known, right around 5 o'clock in the afternoon, they were saying, "There's that orange car again. Get out of here." So eventually we got kind of ridden out of town on a rail.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, but then we came back and we worked off of Lyons Avenue just down the other street. So it's I've been around here a long time. And that place there, the Long Branch Theater, I helped build with Andre and Renaud. The guys that own this place here, Melody Ranch, have been friends of mine for a long time. They actually did the cars on the Dukes way back when. So, yeah, they've been friends of mine for years and years and years. So when they were building that, I was out here hammering and nailing and having a great time.
Renaud, it looks like Melody Ranch is still under construction.
Yeah, we're still working on the place here. In fact, this is the new hacienda that we're putting in the new set right now. That was here and it burned down in 1962. And so we're reconstructing the whole thing off of old photographs that we had of the building. And we've got pictures back from the 1930s, and then Gene Autry and other art directors have added on to this building. So now this is what it looked like in 1962, so that's what we want to have it completed like.
These are beautiful materials here. Where did you find all of this?
Well, this is some of the doors that come from the Warner Brothers collection down at their prop house. And then we was fortunate to get them, and they matched pretty close to what was originally here, so we got all the doors on the whole building like that.
Andre, this building is one building you didn't have to rebuild. Now, why is that?
Well, in 1962, there was a big fire come through the ranch, and there was a photo shoot being filmed here, and it was Elvis Presley. And when the fire got so intense, the building started catching fire on the back. It got scorched and it started burning, and the firemen and Elvis Presley ran over it and put the fire out. They just dunked water all over it, and it just saved this building.
The Veluzats have built a museum here. Let's go take a look.
This particular car right here belonged to Stan Laurel, and it was used in a Laurel and Hardy movie in 1933 called Midnight Patrol. And then we acquired all these cars here about 25 years ago, and we used them in the movie Last Man Standing, filmed here at Melody Ranch.
Okay, so Renaud, this car was also used in Last Man Standing?
Yeah, that's correct. And what we had to do is double this car because we were using the Laurel and Hardy car for the principal car. Mm-hmm. So we had to get another one so we could put all the bullet holes in it. And there's 180 bullet hits in this car right here.
Tell us about this tank.
Well, this is a tank that we built for the movie Red Dawn. And then later we used it in the movie Rambo III. And I drove it 27 miles in that show. On location, and at the end of the movie we crashed it into a helicopter, and that was me driving it right here.
Oh my goodness. Renaud, this is a great stagecoach. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. We have it on loan from Warner Brothers Museum right now, and it was used in the movie Maverick, starring Jim Garner and Mel Gibson and Jodie Foster. And Jim Garner, when he did the original Maverick series, they did some of the episodes right here at Melody Ranch.
As you can see, Melody Ranch has a great deal of history, and it's great that the Veluzats have shared this with us. This is Margie Clark for Legacy.
Well, the place still looks like it did in all those Gene Autry pictures and everybody else that you see. You know, Gene, one time, a couple of years before he died, actually, wrote a little story for one of our historical publications. I just want to read something out of that. He says, I'd always planned to erect a Western museum there, picking up on the museum theme here that you've done, but priceless Indian relics and a collection of rare guns, including a set used by Billy the Kid, went up in smoke in the 1962 fire. Thank God the ranch hands and all 14 of our horses were uninjured. Of course, then in 1988, the Gene Autry Museum of Western Heritage opened in Griffith Park. And but tell me a little bit about your museum that you've opened there. How would the public come to you to see it?
Just call
Call up Melody Ranch and do it on an appointment basis?
Sure, and we're on the internet.
Gotcha. Now, sounds from Mr. Autry's writing here that I guess it must have been pretty discouraging when that fire came along and dashed his plans. And I guess in the 70s, 80s, I think the ranch kind of fell into disrepair, didn't it?
Well, Gene really actually, he'd come back and he'd come over to the ranch quite a bit.
Oh, yeah?
Actually,
he came
yeah,
on about a weekly basis.
Really? To
yeah,
do
he
what?
had his horses there.
Kept to go see his horse champion.
Okay.
Sure. He'd drive in, and when we first bought it from Gene, he'd drive over, and you'd see him coming down through the gate and drive into the ranch. You just couldn't believe it's Gene Autry driving in. I mean, he had his big, nice white Stetson hat and
checking on our progress.
yeah.
Well, over time, before you bought that final parcel, he sold off the ranch in pieces. Like you said, it was probably maybe 100 acres or so
Right.
at one time. Didn't he sell it off kind of chunk by chunk?
Chunk by piece, you know,
Yeah.
in parcels and.
Well, how
So
was
it
it
was-
that you came, that you made the decision to buy this last remaining 10 acres?
Well, we do have 22 acres over there now.
Okay.
And so it was put up for sale in December 1990. And fortunately, we come along and had a chance to buy it, and we did. And we bought it from Gene.
I'm sorry, was it 10 acres that you bought originally, or
The
was
original
it always 22?
the original studio itself was where he had where the Western Street is, was 10 acres.
Okay.
And then we've added another parcel to it.
Oh, I see.
Since then, that was part of the Indian Street there.
Where the
It
big
had
trains were parked.
The big trains were parked in the
Right.
back, which is at Hart's Park now. And there was
the one that-
the Fort Apache was in the back, in that back section right there.
Okay.
And so we bought that a few years back.
Right. Yeah, I remember seeing those trains out there.
Yeah, oh,
He
yeah.
had a couple, three of them.
I lived
One of
right down the
those-
street from there for years and stuff.
Yeah.
And
1629, that engine's over
Yeah,
at
the
Hart's
engine
Park.
1629, the
Right.
one he donated in 1982 to the Historical
Right.
Society. Got it over there in front of the Saugus train station.
That's right. Did you ever know how they made that train operate over at the ranch?
No. I didn't know they
Give you
did
a
operate
little
at the
piece
ranch.
of little nostalgia.
Used it in the Virginians.
They had a mound in the back of the property where the train tracks went,
Yeah.
and they used to tow the train up there with 2 Mack trucks.
Okay.
Winched it up, and it would roll into where the train station is and stop. So they never had to have it running.
Well, tell me a little bit about your own personal family history. I mean, you weren't new to the movie industry when you bought Melody Ranch.
Well, we just grew up on a ranch in Saugus, and my father had race horses, and he'd winter them in the winter. Then we'd take them to the track, and my father ended up having real estate and buying property and stuff. And we kind of grew up in the family, Dad and I and Renaud. Was real close, and we worked in the entertainment field, and then we worked in the movies and pictures and stuff. My dad was a producer. He made quite a few movies, and it just kind of took off from that.
Now, your dad was Paul T.
Paul T.
Veluzat.
Paul T.
And didn't he come to town in about 1940?
39.
39.
Bought the ranch in Saugus in '39. It's in Bouquet Canyon.
Off of Haskell
Haskell.
Canyon.
And today you use that as you call that the big ranch.
Yeah, we call it.
Andre and I added acreage to that back in 1975, 76, and we enlarged it back then. When we was doing all the Dukes of Hazzard shows, we used to do a lot of the second unit Dukes of Hazzard stunts and stuff up there.
Yeah. And right now they're doing JAG today.
The TV show.
Right. Tell me a little bit more about your dad. He lived quite a time.
Well, I can tell you, every business deal he did mainly 99% with a handshake. And
He was that type of person.
Yeah.
You know.
and
He went to 101, and he was driving the golf carts around over Melody a few months before that.
yeah.
That longevity there, he took a lot of vitamins, I understand.
Yeah, he took his vitamins since 1947. And sure did. Yeah.
Now, I remember seeing your movie rental business, the vehicle business, along San Fernando Road there around 2nd Street, I think.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about that and how that got started.
We started down there selling Army Jeeps years ago, and people would come by and buy them from us and for hunting and things like that. And then one day, some guys from Universal Studios come by and wanted to rent some Jeeps from us, so we rented them, and then we got them back, and so we rented them again, and so we started our rental business over a couple of Jeeps.
Then we did the series Baba Black Sheep with him, and then MacArthur, and in
Nash.
1941, MASH for years. It was very lucrative, and so we just kind of stayed with the rental department, and just as people needed things, him and I would just go out and find it and just make
military movies.
Yeah.
Is what we did.
And you still run that rental business
Right.
down by the, near the corner of
Right,
San
on by the
Fernando and
freeway.
the Sierra.
Andre and Paul, his boy just finished up a show called Cradle to the Grave. Had some Army tanks and Army trucks in it.
Right. Well, between Melody Ranch and the big ranch and the movie rental business, am I leaving anything out there?
Well, you meet a lot of people in the movie industry between those three
Right.
businesses.
What's the biggest of those? What's the biggest thing for you?
I'll tell you what it is, from my heart, is to see somebody laugh, smile, and happy, and a family walking around like this cowboy poetry that we've been having for all these years. It's a family-oriented thing. It's great.
It's a great thing
Yeah,
that,
yeah, makes you
that we still have
feel like-
Melody Ranch.
Right.
Too.
That's right.
Right.
And you rebuilt it. Tell me about how you rebuilt it.
Well, it took us about 15 months.
Now, you bought it in about 1991.
1990.
1990.
December 90.
Okay.
And in
Take it
1990,
from there.
1991, we had a few photographs of the street, original street, and we laid out all the elevations from those photographs, and we built it from that.
No blueprints.
No, we didn't have any blueprints. And then after we got pretty well basically done with the layout of the street, we got some aerial photos of it, and that really helped.
Some of the buildings we had pictures with John Wayne like in 1937.
Right.
And we wanted to get this building so authentic. We knew how tall John Wayne was, so we'd scale that wood according to his height, and it was either a 1x8 or a 1x6 or to get the height in there
Right.
just right.
Yeah.
And we would try to get it to just as authentic as we could.
Yeah.
You know, you mentioned, I think it's still under construction.
Yeah.
What,
yeah.
I think it'd be under construction for a long time.
forever, I would imagine.
Yeah, you can always add
It's
another.
a working movie set.
Yeah.
That's right, because it changes daily.
And every time you build something, you're adding to a piece of history.
Right. Are there other things that were there that you still want to rebuild?
Yeah, there's complete the Mexican street. You know, we want to redo that completely, and then the sound stages that they had originally there. You know,
And then the little outbuildings, wherever you have a little street, you want to see another building this way. Well, that building has to have a little meaning. So
Right.
we go and look for pictures and stuff to see how it was, and just put it back.
Where do you find all these pictures?
well, with your help.
Yeah, your help.
Yeah,
I know that
the
one.
internet. The internet is surprisingly these pictures they're everywhere.
Gene had a big fan.
Oh.
He had lots of thousands of
Thousands.
fans. And people call us to say, we have this, and there's always people giving us pictures. And that
People that was
they're
there-
on the ranch and got their picture taken, they send us a picture.
Years ago.
Do you mostly work off of stills, or do you go back and watch the old movies, or?
Well, we can
Both.
both.
Now then, too, though, I mean, you know, it was a working ranch then. I would imagine that it changed a lot then. You know, how did you decide what rendition of Melody Ranch you wanted to build?
Well, back then, you know, they would change the town by changing the signs and the name. If it was Dallas or it was Tombstone,
Yeah.
they'd just put the sign up and that's where you're at.
Yeah.
And basically, that's what they, you know, a lot of these shows do. You put a sign up and that's where you're at.
And you've got your new soundstage that you guys built, and then another soundstage. But the street itself, it's not just the facades, right? There's actually
Right.
interiors.
Originally, when Ernie Hickson built those, built the town, they were really real buildings, and there was 9 residents on that street.
There was a
also.
commissary for the cowboys to eat in, and there was a bunkhouse there. And then
Where they stayed overnight.
and horse corrals.
Because you got to remember too, Newhall was really out in the way out from Hollywood,
Sure.
and so they would come up there and stay all night.
A lot of these cowboys kept their horses, and they worked on these big ranches down in Irvine. So those cowboys would lead 4 or 5 horses. It'd take them about 3 days to get to Newhall. So once they brought their horses there, and they rode their horses and drug horses, they stayed there till their pictures were over. Of course, you got to remember back then that Gene Autry probably shot 25 million feet of film. And as we sit here now, we probably went through about 40 million now with the different TV shows and the Mag 7, and a lot of them are there. It's a lot of film, a lot of footage.
Everybody's been there at that place.
Even Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis did a show there.
Really?
Jimmy Durante, Max Terhune. And then when the buildings were all burnt down in 1962, they came right in and filmed combat there for a while.
Yeah.
They just utilized what they could.
Well, what's the future of Melody Ranch? You're gonna keep doing?
Oh, you just always finding things to do.
As
And,
long as they're doing westerns.
Yeah, you just make things better and open it up to the public at once again each year, and then the museum's doing really good.
Good.
People call, want to go through it. And family, it's good.
Good. Well, I want to thank you guys for joining us.
Oh, pleasure, Leon.
And
Thanks,
You wanna-
man. You bet.
see some more pictures and read a little bit more about Melody Ranch, and for that matter, for answers to all your SCV history questions, visit scvhistory.com on the internet or stop by the Saugus train station in downtown Newhall weekends 1 to 4. Thanks for joining us for this edition of Legacy, Santa Clarita's Living History. I'm Leon Warden. Good night.